There was a time when finishing a game meant beating the final boss, watching the credits roll, and maybe unlocking a secret ending. That moment was the end of one journey and the beginning of the next. You knew when a game was done. But today, that certainty has evaporated. More players than ever start games, but far fewer actually finish them. Completion rates across platforms are wildly low, even for critically acclaimed titles. And players don't just stop early. Many abandon experiences they genuinely enjoy. That's not just quitting, that's a shift in what gaming means in 2026. So why is this happening? Are games too long? Are players too distracted? Or has the very concept of finishing a game changed? In this video, we're going to explore the complex reasons behind this shift, trying on player behavior, industry trends, psychological patterns, and the evolving nature of games themselves. So without further ado, let's get into it. The backlog crisis and loss of finality. One of the biggest changes in the last few years is the way games have stopped behaving like finite experiences. In 2026, many more titles resist ending, especially live service games. These don't have traditional conclusions. They keep evolving with new seasons, updates, and story arcs that arrive after launch. Many players never reach a point where they can truly say, I finished this. Instead, they feel like they paused it, maybe indefinitely. The definition of completion has become ambiguous. Even single-player games, once the bastions with clear endings, now receive post-launch expansions, seasonal content, difficulty updates, and new maps. A player who finished the main story 6 months ago might come back only to discover new content that reframes the experience. That blurs the line between finished and ongoing. Furthermore, players also accumulate games faster than they can play them, thanks to subscription services like Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, frequent digital sales, and affordable mobile titles. So instead of finishing one game before starting another, many gamers treat their libraries like an ever-rotating playlist, dipping in and out of dozens of experiences without reaching an endpoint. What once was a checklist with a clear endpoint has become a maze with no exit. The backlog is something you clear, is something you manage indefinitely. And when games never feel complete, players stop trying to complete them, forgetting why we play. Another major reason players don't finish games is a psychological phenomenon tied to FOMO, fear of missing out. With more releases than ever, countless influencers hyping the latest titles and social media where finished games are flaunted as achievements, many players chase what's new rather than what's worth finishing. This creates a vicious cycle. A player buys game A, then sees game B trending, jumps to it, and repeats endlessly. The allure of the next new thing often overrides the motivation to finish the game already in progress. That shiny new title feels exciting, while finishing the current game can feel like a grind. This dynamic is especially potent among younger players who grew up in an environment where games are abundant, and social validation comes from doing more than others, not finishing what you start. The result, a generation skilled at starting games but not completing them. Furthermore, there is also guilt involved. Many players feel they should finish games but don't enjoy the process anymore. It's just the dopamine of new systems, new mechanics, and new narratives, but the emotional payoff finishing gets deferred indefinitely. And that's one reason why backlogs now generate stress rather than joy, because you never cross anything off permanently. Player expectations versus game structure. Players have changed, and games have changed with them. Today's players want instant clarity. What is this? Why should I care? What am I doing next? That means games with slow starts, confusing tutorials, or long build-ups often lose players early, before the story or even the systems click. A recent industry report found that a huge portion of players drop out just within a few sessions because the game doesn't hook them quickly enough. The Juventus 2025 report highlighted that 92% of players quit before day 30, 70% drop off within the first few sessions, and 38% decide to quit during the first session if there's no immediate emotional connection. That means retention isn't just about difficulty or length, it's about something deeper, meaningful connection. If a game doesn't emotionally resonate within the first few hours, many players simply move on. Game developers are often trying to design for matrices rather than meaning, optimizing for retention curves or monetization instead of emotional arcs or clarity of purpose. And when players feel like they're being herded through the systems rather than experiencing a story or journey, they disengage sooner. And this mismatch between player expectation and game structure is a fundamental reason why many games go unfinished, even the ones players initially enjoy. Modern lifestyle and limited time. It's not just game design that has changed, player lives have changed too. One of the most common real world reasons players don't finish games is simple time scarcity. Jobs, family, education, side hustles, and other responsibilities slice into leisure time more than ever before. On Reddit and gaming communities, countless players report that they used to finish every game when they were younger, but now they struggle to make time for any single game for more than a few times a week. They might love a game, but life keeps pulling them away before they reach the end. Another dimension is attention fragmentation. Many players juggle multiple games, platforms, and hobbies simultaneously. And games that once could hold attention for 50 plus hours now lose appeal after 10 to 20 hours because there's always something else tugging at our attention. There's also a psychological effect related to cognitive load. Modern games are larger, more complex. Long play sessions require players to keep track of many systems, stats, quests, and lore. And players sometimes unconsciously resist finishing because continuing feels closer to work than to play. A commentator described this well. Reaching late game feels like obligation rather than enjoyment, and that prompts abandonment. So time scarcity and cognitive overload are real, and they're directly influenced by players increasingly stop playing games before finishing. Live services and ever-expanding words. Another core reason players don't finish games is the rise of live service models. Games that are designed to never end. Titles like Fortnite, Destiny 2, Genshin Impact, and other release constant updates, events, and seasons that reshape the game after the campaign is done. In these models, finishing the story feels like just another beginning. Live service games blur the line between product and platform. There's always an event, a seasonal reward, a new weapon, or a fresh mechanic to chase. And players stop finishing narrative games because the ongoing games now stop calling them back. Even traditionally single-player experiences borrow from this model. Many now feature post-launch content drops, DLC expansions, or expanded story modes that trigger replay loops, meaning a player who once finished a game might come back later to discover there's more to do. This trend has reshaped player expectations. The permanent update cycle trains players to think less in terms of finishing and more in terms of engagement time, and engagement time often gets diverted into social events, multiplayer modes, and seasonal content that keeps players from completing traditional narratives. So in 2026, completing a game may feel like closing a tab on the internet. It's possible, but the ecosystem of ongoing content makes it less satisfying and less final than it used to be. Cultural shifts. There's also a significant cultural shift in how players value games. In the past, finishing a game was seen as a badge of honor, a testament to skill, patience, and dedication. But today, many players play for moments, not for endings. Communities on Reddit and Discord often reflect this. Players talk about dipping into games, enjoying the parts they like most, and abandoning them when the novelty fades, even without finishing. Some have even observed that playing until the fun stops is a more authentic way to enjoy games than chasing completion for its own sake. Another shift is the idea that games are social media artifacts, something you share and talk about, not necessarily complete. TikTok clips, let's plays, and shared highlights often replace the need to finish. A player may experience a game's essence vicariously through others. There's also a generational perspective. Many players that grew up in the eras of finite modules or single releases now navigate worlds with no end. Long-form AAA titles, subscription ecosystems, and infinite multiplayer modes redefine what it means to experience a game. And for many, finishing a game is no longer the goal. Engaging with the community and sharing experiences is. And that shift changes priorities away from completion and towards participation. So, why don't players finish games anymore? It's not a single cause, it's a systematic shift in how games are made, marketed, and consumed. Players face larger, longer titles, endless live service content, fragmented attention, FOMO and choice overload, blurred endpoints, and cultural expectations that prioritize engagement over completion. But maybe the question itself has changed. Maybe in 2026, finishing a game isn't the measure of dedication it once was. Instead, gaming has become a continuous experience, one where the journey is the destination. If games aren't finished like before, this isn't necessarily a failure, it's a new paradigm. Games as evolving experiences rather than definitive stories. And in that shift, players are adapting, not abandoning gaming. But what about you? Do you guys finish games anymore? Or do you dip in and out? Comment below with the last game you actually finished. What made you stick with it? If you like this video, click like, share, subscribe to watch more videos like this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay silver.